Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. 5 Americans are freed from Iranian custody in a landmark deal, but it's not without strings attached. 5 Iranian prisoners released in exchange along with $6 billion in payment. The move triggers both praise and criticism. NTD's Jason Perry has the update.
The United States and Iran rarely see eye to eye, but recent negotiations have led to the release of 5 Americans from Iranian prisons. An attorney for one of the Americans said he'd been trying to get his client out of prison for over 7 years, and he shared the moment he found out.
He gave me a call as soon as he came off the plane, and he said, "I'm finally free." And it was an emotional moment, I think, for both of us.
Jared Gesner is the attorney for freed American Siamak Namazi, who is 51 years old. The other Americans released from Iranian custody are Ahmad Shargi and Murad Tabaz. The names of the other 2 U.S. citizens were not released as they wanted to remain anonymous. On Monday, the 5 Americans landed briefly in Qatar, which mediated the exchange, and they're now on their way to the U.S. In one part of the deal, the U.S. released 5 Iranians from U.S. prisons. Iranian state-run media said one of the Iranians released had been arrested for obtaining equipment that could be used in nuclear weapons, and another was arrested for illegally exporting laboratory equipment to Iran. Only 2 of the 5 Iranians released from prison are returning to Iran, while 2 will stay in the United States and another will move to a third country. In the other part of the deal, the U.S. paid $6 billion to the Iranian regime. Former President Trump posted this on Truth Social. "I brought 58 hostages home from many different countries, including North Korea, and I never paid anything. Once you pay, you will always pay, and many more hostages will be taken." Other critics say Iran will use the funds to support terrorism, but White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that won't be the case.
The regime doesn't get the money. They can request a withdrawal for humanitarian goods, agricultural products, medical supplies, food. We'll make sure that the contracts are let with vendors that we know we can trust, and then that material will be delivered to the Iranian people. The Iranian regime does not get hands on this money.
I spoke with Majid Sadegpour, a human rights activist and the political director for the Organization of Iranian American Communities. And he said he believes that the Iranian regime will launder that money.
I venture to say Iranian hospitals will be starved of resources, and those resources will be taken to acts of terrorism. And some of these funds will be then funneled, some of it will be funneled to those hospitals in return. But the majority of it, at the end of the day, will go to persecute the people of Iran and exact terror on the people of Iran.
The deal comes almost exactly 1 year after an Iranian woman, Mahsa Amini, died in police custody following her arrest for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. Her death sparked anti-government protest, which became the largest show of opposition to Iranian authorities in years. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Former Vice President Mike Pence pitching his strategy on communist China. His speech today comes amid surprise talks between Washington and Beijing. NTD's Iris Tao has more.
In a speech given at the Hudson Institute today, former Vice President Mike Pence vowed to recognize the Chinese Communist Party for what it is if he becomes the president. Watch.
We will recognize the Chinese Communist Party for what it is, the greatest threat to our prosperity, security, and values on the face of the earth. China may not yet be an evil empire, but it's working hard to become one.
That's as he laid out his strategy to counter Beijing, including by boosting funding for the U.S. military and countering Beijing's intellectual property theft by limiting visas given to Chinese nationals, and also to counter China's influence through decoupling from China in essential industries. He also vowed to ban TikTok on day one and to ban Chinese companies from purchasing American farmland.
Because some Republican candidates, including my former running mate, are abandoning the traditional conservative position of American leadership on the world stage and embracing a new and dangerous form of isolationism. I believe isolationism is just another word for appeasement on the world stage.
But all this, he says, does not mean that the U.S. should isolate itself from China. And in fact, he used that point to take aim at some of the GOP candidates, including former President Donald Trump. But as Republican candidates are sounding hawkish on China, the Biden White House says it's trying to responsibly manage its relationship with China. This past weekend, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi quietly in Europe. And just today, the State Secretary Antony Blinken also met with China's Vice President in New York during the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. And of course, all these meetings could be paving the way for President Biden to meet with China's Xi Jinping in the coming months. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
IRS whistleblowers are accused of intentionally disclosing Hunter Biden's private tax records, the president's son filing a lawsuit earlier today. NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards brings us the details.
4 days after being indicted on gun charges, Hunter Biden is alleging in a lawsuit that the IRS unlawfully disclosed his tax return information, and he blames 2 IRS agents. Filed on Monday, the lawsuit alleges that whistleblower agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler repeatedly and intentionally shared Biden's private tax information. Specifically, it states that the 2 agents tried to smear the young Biden by making statements at more than 20 nationally televised interviews in violation of the Internal Revenue Code and without congressional oversight. Shapley's attorney, Tristan Levitt, told Fox News that the lawsuit is frivolous.
What you see here is that Hunter Biden's attorneys are accusing the whistleblowers of releasing this information, but it was the Committee on House Ways and Means that has the legal authorization pursuant to laws that Congress itself wrote. That's who released this information. Prior to that, the whistleblowers only shared broad strokes that related to no taxpayer specifics. But once that information is released by Congress, just like it was with Trump's tax returns, it's public information and people can speak about it in whatever context.
In June, the House Ways and Means Committee voted to publish transcripts of the whistleblowers' testimonies.
These tax crimes cover an estimated $2.2 million in unreported tax on global income streams to Mr. Biden and his associates from Ukraine, Romania, and China, totaling $17.3 million from 2014 to 2019.
Shapley and Ziegler testified in May. They testified that they faced various limitations during their investigation of Hunter's tax case. The lawsuit states that the agents didn't apply the same rights to Hunter as they did to every other American. Shapley's attorney says the lawsuit is an attempt to intimidate whistleblowers.
We definitely aren't going to be intimidated by a frivolous attempt like this, and we hope that other whistleblowers who might potentially be considering coming forward won't be intimidated either.
The IRS is not commenting on the lawsuit. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Former President Trump's national security aide Kash Patel suing the FBI and the Department of Justice. It's because the DOJ sought access to his personal email back in 2017. Patel is accusing the agencies of violating his Fourth Amendment right, which protects him from unreasonable searches and seizures from the government. The lawsuit targets 7 officials who were on active duty at that time. That includes FBI Director Christopher Wray and former District Attorney Jesse Liu. At the time, Patel was working as a chief investigator under the House Intelligence Committee. He was leading the investigation into the DOJ's handling of Crossfire Hurricane, a probe based on the now debunked idea that Trump colluded with Russia to secure the 2016 election. Democratic Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton of Virginia will not be seeking re-election. She's citing health concerns. 54-year-old Wexton was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease a few months ago, but in her statement today, the Congresswoman said her doctor had modified her diagnosis to supranuclear palsy, which she described as, quote, Parkinson's on steroids. Wexton commented, I wasn't making the progress to manage my symptoms that I had hoped. The Congresswoman represents a purple district in Northern Virginia. It has seen tight races in the past several elections. Wexton was first elected in 2018, flipping the district from red to blue. A 2022 study revealed that nearly 90,000 people were diagnosed with Parkinson's every year in the U.S., a steep 50% increase from the previously estimated rate of 60,000 diagnoses annually. We do wish the Congresswoman well in her battle with this very serious illness. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.